The answer to your prayers rarely comes the way you imagine. You may have pictured trumpets, flashes of light, a sudden lifting of burdens and the triumphant ringing of success. Instead, it might come on a Tuesday, quiet, almost forgettable. You wake up, pour your coffee, glance at your phone, and something is different, but not loud, not magical in the way you once demanded, but unmistakably touched by something beyond you. The mistake we make too often is that we expect the divine to announce itself like a parade, when in truth it arrives like dew on grass. The soul that has prayed for years is not met with applause, but with a moment so simple it would be easy to step over it. If you're not listening closely, you'll miss it entirely. That's the strange irony of answered prayer. It can only be heard by the ear trained through waiting. Waiting is its own kind of furnace. While we sit in silence, wondering if anyone is even listening, something is being forged in us. Not the answer, us. We are being prepared to recognize what we've asked for when it comes in a form we didn't expect. The truth is, what we pray for and what we think we want are rarely the same thing. And the gap between those two things is where grace lives. You asked for strength, so you were given trials. You asked for love, and you were made to wait, to feel the ache, to notice your need. You asked for clarity, and the path grew darker for a time, so you'd learn to trust, not merely to see. You asked for purpose, and everything fell apart, just long enough for you to stop building your life on what couldn't hold you. The answer, you see, has been arriving all along, but not as a perfectly wrapped gift. It has come like the slow rising of the sun. You only see what it reveals when you stop insisting on flash and start attending to light. There is something sacred about this Tuesday, not because it's the culmination of everything, but because it might be the hinge on which your story turns. A small hinge, quiet and almost hidden, but one that swings a great door. What if this ordinary day is the beginning of everything you've prayed for? What if the answer isn't on its way, but has already come and is waiting for you to notice? This is why you must listen, not with your ears, but with the patience and wonder that can hear eternity in a whisper. Most people won't. Most people will scroll past it, laugh at the idea, demand proof. But not you. You, the one who prayed in silence, the one who stayed, the one who wrestled, are being told to listen. And one more thing, you were not chosen because you were ready. You were chosen because you would answer. Don't wait for a sign clearer than obedience. Don't delay until you feel strong. The strength will come, not before the path, but on the path. That is the way of things. This Tuesday may not feel like everything you hoped, but if you'll sit still long enough, if you'll set your heart to hearing what's beneath the noise, you may realize that the very thing you've been asking for has been standing beside you all along, waiting not for the right time, but for you to notice. Listen closely. The sacred rarely shouts. The chosen one never feels chosen at the start. That's the first secret. You imagine that being chosen would feel like power, like certainty, like something in you is suddenly undeniable. But that's a myth. In truth, being chosen often feels like disruption. It unsettles your rhythm. It calls you away from what is comfortable and into something unmeasured. It feels like confusion more than clarity, burden more than blessing. But in that very discomfort, something holy is unfolding. You are not being handed a crown. You are being handed a calling. The weight is different. The stories we admire always begin with ordinary people, a shepherd, a carpenter, a dreamer, and the moment they are called is rarely the moment they understand. It's often years later, sometimes decades, when they look back and see, oh, that was the day everything changed. That was the Tuesday everything began, not with fireworks, but with an ache, with a nudge, with a sudden stillness that wouldn't leave them alone. If you feel that today, don't dismiss it. Don't assume that because the ground didn't shake, heaven hasn't spoken. It is speaking now, but softly, and only those willing to be interrupted will hear it. You may feel unworthy. That too is part of the design. Worthiness was never the qualification. Willingness is. The call does not come because you're the strongest or the smartest or the most spiritual. It comes because you're the one who will say yes, even when it doesn't make sense. You're the one who will walk forward with trembling hands and a steady heart. That's what sets the chosen apart. Not their strength, but their surrender. Not their skill, but their listening. You asked for something, perhaps years ago. You may have even forgotten what you said, what you whispered through tears, what you only dared to say in your heart, but heaven didn't forget. The prayer has been moving forward ever since, shaped by wisdom you don't yet understand. And now the answer stands before you, not as a conclusion, but as a beginning. That's the second secret. The answer to your prayer isn't the end of the story, it's the invitation to a new one. When you prayed, you saw only the need, but the one who answers saw the whole journey. That's why the answer is not just provision, it is transformation. You prayed for something to change, but heaven answered in a way that will change you. Don't be surprised if it costs more than you thought. Don't be alarmed if it calls you into unfamiliar territory. That's how you know it's real. Real answers never leave you the same. This Tuesday, this seemingly ordinary day, is wrapped in divine fingerprints. There's nothing inherently magical about the day itself. It's that the timing aligns. The soil of your soul is finally ready for what the seed of your prayer has grown into. And what is being placed into your hands is not fragile, but it is sacred. Handle it with wonder. Guard it with gratitude. This is yours. This is what you were meant to carry. So listen closely, not to the noise of the world or the pressure of your fears, but to the still voice that has been speaking all along, the one that whispered when you were alone, the one that stirred when you wanted to quit, the one that brought you here to this moment. You are not late, you are not lost, you are not mistaken, you are chosen, and everything you've prayed for is closer than you think. You will not recognize the moment when it arrives, not at first. It will not look like the fulfillment of years of longing. It will not come with trumpets or be wrapped in gold. It will look like a decision you could easily overlook, a conversation you could dismiss, a quiet internal pause where something deep inside you knows this is it. That's how everything you've prayed for begins, not with spectacle, but with subtlety. We are trained to look for drama, for signs in the sky, for obvious miracles. But heaven often answers in quiet, and those who are too loud inside will never hear it. The ones who see it, who catch the moment, who respond when everything else says wait, they are the ones who become the chosen. It's not because they were better, it's because they were paying attention. They'd been prepared, in silence, in the ache of waiting. And when the moment arrived, not wrapped in certainty, but clothed in mystery, they said yes. That's what today may be, this Tuesday. It might feel small, but the weight of it is eternal. You can't measure a seed by its size. You measure it by the tree it becomes. This is seed time, and you're being asked to trust that the harvest will come, though it may take longer than you'd like. Sometimes we imagine the chosen one as someone with a glow about them, someone untouchable, uniquely gifted, born marked. But what makes someone chosen is not what they are born with, It's what they choose in the moment of uncertainty. You are being asked to choose now, to believe that the prayers you whispered in the dark are being answered, not with grand displays, but with open doors. Doors that may not look like what you expected. You may not even be sure you want to walk through them. But something within you knows. This is the moment. Don't miss it because it feels too normal. The greatest shifts come disguised in the everyday. And here's what's harder to accept. The answer may not come as relief. It may come as responsibility. You asked for purpose. You may be handed a burden. You asked for direction. You may be asked to walk a path you've never seen before. You asked for strength, and you may be placed in a situation where you feel entirely weak. This is not punishment. This is preparation. Heaven doesn't give you what flatters your comfort. It gives you what fulfills your calling, and you will only know it's right by the way it stirs something ancient in your spirit. A kind of recognition, not of the details, but of the weight. You will feel that this was what you were made for, even if it scares you. There is no need to rush, but there is urgency, not in speed, but in attentiveness. Something is unfolding even now, and if you're not careful, you'll convince yourself that you're not ready, that you need one more sign, one more confirmation. But here's the final truth. The ones who walk into their answered prayer don't feel ready, they just feel compelled, drawn, held by something greater than logic. They step forward because to stay still feels like disobedience. This is not about perfection, it's about response. Heaven can work with your fear. It can work with your doubt, but it needs your yes. It needs your willingness to hold what feels too big, to carry what seems too heavy, to believe when everything in you wants to stay safe. And on the other side of that yes, on the other side of your listening, your choosing, your risking, waits everything you prayed for. Maybe not in the shape you imagined, but in the form your soul always needed. So listen closely. Be still. And then, when the moment comes, step forward. Not because you're sure, but because you were chosen. There is a kind of silence that feels holy, not empty, but full. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of something waiting to be revealed. You've been in that silence, haven't you? The kind that settles into the corners of your days, asking you to wait longer than you thought you could. That silence has not been wasted. It has been doing its quiet work, preparing you to hear. Because the voice that answers your prayers will not shout, it will not compete, it will whisper, it will come in the language of peace, of inner stillness, of a sudden knowing that doesn't need explanation. The problem is not that heaven isn't speaking, it's that we rarely get quiet enough to listen. But now, finally, you are still, and in that stillness something is coming into focus. You may not be able to name it yet, but you can feel it. The day is near. The answer is close. Don't expect the answer to look like the dream. What you imagined in your moments of longing may not match what you're given. But that does not mean the answer is wrong. It means it has been refined. You asked from a place of need, but the answer comes from a place of knowing. You prayed from the ground. Heaven answered from above, and in that distance something changed. What you thought you wanted may have faded, but what you truly needed is now unfolding. It's easy to miss if you're still clinging to the picture you painted in desperation. But if you can let go of the specifics, if you can stop demanding that the gift look a certain way, you'll realize it's already here. Everything you've prayed for may not arrive all at once, but it will come exactly as it should. Not a moment too soon, not a second too late. You are not chosen because of your strength. That needs to be said again. You are not chosen because of your strength. The ones who are chosen are often the ones who have been broken, who have come to the end of themselves, who have no illusions left about their own greatness. The chosen are not the impressive, they are the willing. And what sets them apart is not their ability to do extraordinary things, but their quiet decision to say yes in the middle of uncertainty. You will be afraid. You will feel unworthy. You will wonder if this is really it, or if you are simply projecting your own desires onto nothing. That's normal. That's part of the path. But deep inside, under the fear, something knows this is the moment you were made for. Don't wait to feel ready. You won't. Readiness is the fruit of movement, not the condition for it. This Tuesday may look like every other Tuesday. You may wake up with the same thoughts, go through the same motions, but something is different now. A door is opening, not in the world around you, but in the world within you, and the invitation is simple. Walk through it. Trust what's stirring. Follow the whisper. You don't need to see the whole map, just the next step. The answer you've prayed for may not feel like a gift yet. It may feel like a risk, a letting go, a strange kind of loss. But if you keep walking, you'll find that what looked like loss was actually freedom. What looked like the end was the beginning, and what looked like uncertainty was the shape of grace. So, be still. Listen closely. Let go of your ideas about how it should look, and receive what is. The sacred rarely announces itself with clarity. It arrives clothed in the familiar. But if you have the courage to look again, to see with the eyes of faith, you'll recognize it, not because it matches your expectations, but because it awakens something in you that has been waiting a long, long time. There's a moment before the moment when everything changes, a still point, unnoticed by others, where something inside you leans in and quietly says, "Pay attention." That's where we begin. You've prayed, waited, hoped, and maybe even stopped hoping at times, but the truth is, what you've been waiting for has been moving toward you all along. Not loudly, not with spectacle, but slowly, faithfully, in ways that do not obey your clock. You might think nothing is happening, but something is. The ground beneath you has been shifting. The roots have been growing deeper, and now, in the quiet, you are being asked to notice the moment before the moment. You are being asked to listen closely, because what comes next will look small on the outside, but carry eternity within it. It won't look like what you imagined. It rarely does. You prayed for something bold, something clear, something immediate, but instead you are given something that asks you to choose. That's how answers often arrive, not as conclusions, but as invitations. They do not resolve your story, they ask you to take the next step. It's tempting to wait for signs that remove all doubt, but the life of faith was never meant to eliminate mystery. You are not given a full script, you are given a word, a nudge, a door, and it will be up to you to walk through it, not because you're certain, but because you trust the voice that called you. The answer to your prayer is not just a gift, it's a task. And those who are ready will not be those who have it all figured out, but those who are willing to obey without full understanding. The strange thing about being chosen is that you don't feel chosen. You feel ordinary. You feel unsure. You look at your own hands and wonder if they can carry anything sacred. But this is the way it has always been. The ones who carry the most light are often the ones who spent the longest in the dark. The ones who walk with authority are the ones who first walked in uncertainty. Your waiting was not a waste. It was a refining. You were not being ignored. You were being made ready. The fire didn't burn you, it shaped you. And now, without realizing it, you have become the kind of person who can carry the very thing you once begged for. It may not feel like a miracle yet, but that's because you are still standing at the threshold. Miracles often reveal themselves only after you've stepped inside. And now we come to the part no one talks about. Receiving the answer is not always easy. We think the hardest part is the waiting, but sometimes it's the accepting. You must release your old ideas of how it would look, how it would feel, how it would arrive. You must open your hands. You must say yes to something that may not immediately feel like a gift, because the answer might come disguised as a challenge, a task, a responsibility. You wanted joy, but it starts with endurance. You wanted peace, but it begins with surrender. You wanted meaning, but it requires risk. Do not run from this. This is the beginning, and if you stay with it, if you carry it faithfully, it will unfold in ways beyond anything you could have imagined. So this is the invitation. Listen closely. There is something sacred in the ordinary today. There is something divine being whispered under the noise. Don't miss it because it doesn't shout. Don't ignore it because it doesn't look the way you expected. You are not here by accident. You have not been forgotten. This Tuesday might not look like a turning point, but one day you'll look back and say, that was it. That was the day everything changed. Not because the world shifted, but because you did. Because you said yes, because you listened, and because you trusted that when heaven answered, it would sound not like thunder, but like a whisper meant just for you. You have prayed long and low in the silence of your private life, sometimes in words, sometimes in sighs too deep for speech. You've asked for clarity, for breakthrough, for purpose, whatever your soul could name in the darkness. And now, without spectacle or ceremony, the answer is near, not announced from a mountaintop, but arriving like morning light through the curtain, quiet, patient, insistent. The truth is, heaven rarely responds in the way we expect. It does not match our drama. It does not obey our timing. It moves in rhythms older than our impatience and more faithful than our doubt. So now, as you stand on what seems like an ordinary day, a simple Tuesday, know this: you are closer than you've ever been. What's coming next won't feel like a victory march. It will feel like a choice. The answer to your prayer doesn't often look like the thing you envisioned. You asked for direction and were given a moment of silence. You asked for healing and were given a change of heart. You asked for a sign and were given a question. This is the strange mercy of the way things are answered. You are not just being given what you want, you are being shaped into someone who can hold what you asked for. And sometimes that shaping feels like silence, or waiting, or even loss. But don't be fooled. What feels like delay may in fact be design. Every detour, every unanswered prayer, every closed door has been making space for this moment, this step, this decision. The path has not always made sense, but today, if you listen closely, something in you recognizes what's unfolding, not because it's easy, but because it's right. You were not overlooked. You were being refined. And now what is being offered to you is not just an outcome, but a calling, a moment that requires your full yes. Not just agreement in theory, but participation in action. You may feel unqualified. That's part of the invitation. The sacred does not wait for you to be ready, it waits for you to be willing. The task ahead of you will not flatter your ego and may even frighten you, but it will meet you at the deepest level of who you are. It will wake something ancient in you, something you've always known was there. And as you step into this answer, this opportunity, this assignment, this next chapter, you'll find that the fear does not vanish, but it is outmatched by peace. This is not about arrival, it's about alignment. Your answered prayer is not the finish line, it is the trailhead, the start of a new walk, with new questions and new demands. You will not be handed the whole picture. You'll be given just enough light for the next step, and that is all you need. Heaven trusts you not because you're flawless, but because you're listening. Because you've been through the dark and did not let it make you deaf. Because your heart, though weary, still beats in the rhythm of surrender. You are not expected to be perfect. You are expected to be present, to show up for the life you prayed for, even when it asks more of you than you planned to give. So here we are, a Tuesday, a quiet, ordinary-seeming day. But if you pay attention, if you tune your spirit to the deeper frequency of what's unfolding, you'll see it. The hinge of everything, the moment when heaven places something in your hands, not with force, but with quiet invitation. Will you say yes? Will you carry it even if it costs you comfort? Will you believe that what you've prayed for could really be this close? Not in a someday sense, but listen closely. Everything is speaking, just not loudly. The sacred rarely shouts. It's already here, and so are you.